to $20,000 a month. He told the committee, the vetting committee, that the only source of income for him is the money he receives as an MP. Let's add all his sitting allowance, committee allowance, all of that. His pay is 20,000. All the allowances put together, let's say 40,000. Then you stay in a 220,000 Ghana cedis a month house. You, oral committee chairman, you cannot even declare your assets. You cannot even disclose your source of income. So where do you get money, apart from the 40,000? That where do you get money to fund all of these 220,000 rent you pay every month? In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, this Mahama government has deceived Ghanaians. A candidate who campaigned to reduce the cost of living is now busily undermining people's livelihood by revoking their appointment. Candidate or President John Dramani Mahama, who promised to uphold the laws and combat corruption, instead is clearing alleged wrongdoers and turning blind eye whilst the OSP abused. And Central Function Mudia of Frey. Or see Yera Kenofurata or your former finance minister were declared no wanted, Obia Ojani free attending. Ebusiafo Yera Kenofurata Usumi Echemu Adane Tosumi no free or Maymu Oko or Srequine, every chief of staff, Yamami Frimao. Ebra Yera chief of staff of Fra, or by Yera Julius Debra, Ebai. Or such a crata as hard man. Say, oh, we're free of my name, so here be information be. San said, ni dibra no do a bemwa. When Yano, a war, a year or provide a coin or befaso or the bemano, and ne abeso, email, linear, the adinian address, the baby and the phone number, Nina Mano. Nanu ye 24th, and a special prosecutor out on a crata as we hano, and let him come. Na assembly beto anymore, you move. Yera Kenofurata lawyer for Etrobreo. Say a woman were 2 coin or 2 coin cratche. Kako Bisuminian were 2 coin. Intino or het Nampum dina yarisa into Bobeba. Was it a boon to Wasintino, Omonfa, a brea beba emra. Omukaya na fe hospital crampa. Yera Kenofurata wono. Omutua crata at the breo. Say a hanovo, who we na buhunwa. And in a new answer, any who say Asrafo, any open ba kwa, a friend of Japa, idi any more, Omako Iraq and of Ratifi. Akoye to trust my bra, and Marabia Mahokwan, a radem honum, and Semfata. Yera, special prosecutor, Embeka Assembly Tia. Was what you hear Iraq and of Rata won. None a yas of him. San say a castle be Jania from Rowan, and Nipano when it's up and pro who Wajira Nechi. Yera can of Ratako was repine. Okoya was our trocatas has repine. Or Hons wouldn't a lawyer for Duke, a D, and so was I cried the hospital or corner crack as a couple mount. Last year, a brana special prosecutor created with him. Air bass and once him. Who's we here open your back? Yera Mohammed near back, none needing come. Off plane, Echo Yuki ho. And couldn't come. It is a open say no prayer. And I didn't own for play now some hospital or now some court. Ye who say ye special prosecutor ye no. Aye adia and tray and some fata. Sabi yera can of rato unyanin ko babia. Na mamen kasi so duan so say MPP party and your members and no bia no wa ban mu bia no. Ye nwane emfiri atentene ho. Na emom se ye fa kwati kwan na ye de animguase kwan bi oyaw kwan bi na ye de pese egu obi animu ase sanse we de nka ye no ane se na amen na wotwe mienu pe na obi tro krata afa wo hwe nipa na wo hu no ya asemo a asefem ebiem so ahia ye penny ba kwa ono so MP Dr. Sheikh Mustafa ono so special prosecutor ebo ne din ka say o ono so e under investigation enima bi akoso a ye hwehwem Yewura Mustafa ha me ninsan kankrata akra ebra a wo gina simpie so na ne nsentrofo di nkomo a wo kan sa asem no kra no na onim ho hwe onka bibia nkyere no onye bibia bato obo ne din enye saa ne ye adwuma na ya kamya kwese bia opeso obo nipa ne din na wodi gu ne ho fia na ase opeso kan asem bi se wo hwe ne na wonhu na enye no kre the New Patriotic Party ye members omo asom ewo aban ye etwa mu yen ye gimredi ye bumra ye nwane mfira tentrene ne ho na emom se ye fa kwati kwan bi ne agu nipa ne mu ase ne ye ka asem a enye no kre de ye nje ntum se ye fa kwan bi so se ye pese ye de hunhuna bi eba obi akwan mu de ye nje ntum da na emom no de we are ever ready rado ti ebesom se ye ne aban dwumakuo bia wo ye nhwemu bia no ye ne bedi dwuma ne toso mienu na no ye koda sori ye nso a opani Julius Debra se Ghana fo a ya fo mo adwuma efri afi atwa mu eye December 7th ni nyina ye yi omu nyina adi nti omo a omo police omo a omo ko immigration omo ko prisons omo ko fire service omo a omo ye nursing fo a doctor fo omo a ye fo omo civil service mu ene omu nyina na omo nya omo nkrata local government mu ene obia na omo nya omo nkrata eye December 7th no eko no de ye yi obia edi asemu etwetwe aso etiatiam na so Yewura Mahama sebe emra na do baaye wo so afena mu so aye se wo ba bebo Ghana mra ho ban na wa hye mu kena wa ma se wo ba betiatia Ghana mra so Yewura Mahama emra do baaye ne bo sha wo hye Ghana fo ne se odi adwuma eba wanka so ba betwetwe adwuma mu the way enam mra kwan so na hwe krata Yewura Julius Debra de baaye kwan po na asefem ni okan na say oh adwuma ye de mo no ase enne amamuo papa enko eno so ne dey medwuma menti ase eno so ne dey good governance and practice eno so ne dey enye se bi okan se omunam kwati kwan bi so omunam kran emrabone so yamfa mra papa so yangi tumi abusua ansa na ebefa obi ewa adwuma mu no ewa aban mu oje financial clearance ebi okra for Ministry of Finance ebi ho no ma board no aye so mo hwe se eyampa se enipa ye fei ye won hu akande a ebetimi de atu omoka omo nsori prekope emfa nipa enti enipa thousands of jobs and Yewura Mahama enam say wetwam abusuan se ye mo obi akonya so ma me yo mampani ana sa ban bi ba ye ma no emfie 9 mu no afi bia befa nipa na Yewura Julius Debra ne rafi se 2016 ebra no say chief of staff kona no ebra ofi aban mu 16 December onon osan krata wo appointee auditor general director no so NCC ene shraj ninsa hye krata ase a wo appoint Yewura na nadanko akufado ba wan pam omo wan kase watwam appointment bia Yewura Mahama apen so 2016 a wo free so no ye no ye so mu ade ye adwuma eti wo ba ne obi aye na wonso aye bia to aso so obi fa nwuma na wonso afa nwuma ni bia to aso no abi mo kra de ya men cha de also the 24 hours economy ba e be ye adwuma no pa e be ye adwuma awia e be ye adwuma nwumre e be ye adwuma ahomache eti eside na ne wo ba na e wo ho no nso no wu twam besre we enamra kwan so na yen the New Patriotic Party yen tra ho magana fo entwa dwadwo sa obi bia opese onamra kwan so no okobia ne ta na chi mi a megina ha yi ene ye ma lawyer for court a omode asem na kodu court da bi opani Mahama ene ono chief of staff enye mra kwan so ene omonam no na omo nso a asem ya kan omo ye nuanom a asem ya kan omo anka omo ko police omo ko military omo ko immigration omo ko prison asem ya kan omo no omo nso kan omo humom na ne oso omo ye bi omo nye oye kire kra omo nye omo machi no omo fa nko Yewura Mahama ho omo fa petition koma no se omo so ye Ghana for se bi omo mfiri Burkina omo mfiri Togo omo mfiri Ivory Coast omo mfiri Nigeria Ghana here no mu free no mu so ye Ghana for. Yewura Mahama o promise say oba also be the father for all anameboa. Sa pepepe. Je ne de ne bae. Ai ne baba o amo Ghana for. Eye. Nti ye besre. Eno de enamra kwan so baako. Ne to so miensa ye wi ene say. Yewura Mahama ebra oba ye hu say utwa saboni bi a o se ka ho asem. Si dan ena obi a yede Ghana sika ama no $200 million say onko si adan 200 units. Name of 5,000 units. 5,000 no o si 1,500 no kwan so wanwie. Ebu ha ya mboso. Ebu o kwan pa foundation level yanwie ya anya hwe. Na yede na kokot na ye busa ye sika no ba bi akwa akodi a. Osuma wato ni general wo so onko yi ni mpie. Onpepa no ho. Onhohoro ne ho. We one man position say tax force Hajj no na endano Yewura Collins Dauda anso ha usabo ra senator so ye 66 million empanifo gina court say omabo aban sika omaye ne basa nti omunyi omo ho ano omu gina hono ma ye se omo enka omo asem a ebie matoni genu akoya wakwa akoyi omo bia pepa omo sa asem no ko ni akire biem omu nkofie na omu nkodi omu juma 66 million anso ha former Bank of Ghana governor ono na ehwe banking sector so ona ye ehwe han ma banking sector yigu ye ema microfinance savings and loans egu ye ono kro ya said the sika close to bear 400 million esa de ma banka onim se egu na ekofom na asini trase na moje enyunu no sa tablis ka sa de koma no opani gina court oyiyi na no na nia ahintase me wo mu se onne enipa bi ahodo be nsia ena se gina court Yewura attorney general Yewura president Mahama Sumana okoye wakwakoyi onu nko apie ena wapepa ne ho the following day na he appointed the governor Bank of Ghana the following day he appointed no Yewura Mahama yenye obia ni wa ba mu obetimi governor apart from nipa yedi sikasema for ne ho no gina court court emu a ye court say onyina no wasoma wa attorney general so onko yi nimpie enu nti na Manase Azuri say enei say ye ka the republic's Ghana's chief clearing agent commander in chief of all clearing agent ayewo na number 1 Yewura Mahama ayewo na number 1 san say wo de no kra de ano ohye na nia sefem kra ne say said nam tamaklo no wo maslo court aye hwehwemu na court na no asema to dwa say 70 million Ghana cedis Ghana for 24 kantamanto ehye ye ka asem fan komo ya mfa ama omo na emom ye se no ne ye ne basa maami onkodam mfiedu maami ebesi ne odno ho kanwura ye huno okra court say ono so ko medical assistant aba ono kra de yenim na kira kwan ono ne ye ka say obi ye fugitive ono adwane afiri atentene ne ho Yewura kenofiri atade onwane mfiri atentene enne me ka say Yewura Mahama bae onmo ho wa obi a court see enye 70 million fi no won kofi ase no omo ho wa ne attorney general so enra oni media fo share no onka ho asem ti enwanwa atwetwe aso senti ba wo ka se wo keta se ne proye ne krono ye MPPM fo fa so wo so fo fa so na ba ya nia court aka no onu kra no wakoyi ne firi se film yes re ne se Yewura John Mahama 30 days ya wadi die nya kwese enema ekoso no enye ne mapa behind the New Patriotic Party yaka se obi bia owo abamu a osomye under MPP yen nsuro se ebehia atentene the New Patriotic Party so yegina obi bia achi na emom no enya ade a yebepene se yede ayakayaka de ahuru kasem basabasayo ene yede betata yenkofo Davida enti yen ekwan bia ne mra kwan nam so bia se ewo se ye obi enhwemu bia no fully ye support se enkoso ye kra ye beta yenkofo achi abebo mo chidom se omo ebetimi ne mra no chia na emom se huru kasem ayakayaka de deɛ ɛnya deɛ a agye ato mu da suafoɔ sɛ yɛfrɛ mo no a wei ne nsɛm a yɛde to mu anim ɛdaase nyamesam.
Thank you all for coming. We wish you well. Wait for Krobia.
The entire credit that they even help to secure, guarantee, or support constituents and people who may be in need. I believe that even though the foundation has been laid, let me commend the previous government for the 169 companies under the 1D1F, with the old, expanding the old companies and also the establishment of new ones. But I believe that these companies will eventually die off if we do not even consume what they are producing, if we do not take advantage of what they are even producing. And then also the taste developed by for foreign goods, right, Honorable Speaker, is something that I won't say you can compel somebody to just necessarily consume what we produce in Ghana. But I think we should also make it much more attractive for these companies that are also helping employ our people, helping develop this our country, also have the benefit of the things that they are producing to see them on these shelves. In the past, we've had several of these beverages. After 3-4 months, after a year, you do not even find them on the shelves again. I believe that the time has come, and the urgency of the time also requires that now all over the world, right, Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, many countries are now resorting to also looking inward in trying to raise revenue and support the growth of their industries. In conclusion, I would like to also appeal to you to use your good office to help my people in my constituency that the Tetekwashi chocolate factory that was started almost 20 years ago, and up to today, it's been left in the bushes somewhere. And if we can have the Minister for Trade and the Agro-Business we can also have the people having the benefit of at least getting some employment opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Professor. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for catching my eye this time around. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, allow.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity, and let me thank the maker of the statement for making a very important contribution and bringing this subject matter to the floor. Industrialization is very important that we must embrace as a country. Indeed, that is supposed to be the future of the country. Because if you mention most of these developed countries, they have reached where they are because of industrialization. We, as a country, are blessed with a lot of raw materials, but we tend to export most of these raw materials to other countries. They get them processed, and then we import them with a lot of hard currencies to be able to use as a country. Meanwhile, we have huge potential to be able to establish these, to be able to establish these industries to take care of these things. Let me mention that the challenges we face as a country in developing our industries has to do with technological know-how. We have a country where we have good brains, but we don't consciously train our people with the requisite technological know-how to be able to man our industry. The other challenge we have as a country is high cost of production. You have industries that are folding up because of high production. I remember a case where there was this company producing parts. Because of high cost of production, they had to fold up in this country. And they relocated in Egypt, where a country where we have good brains, but we don't consciously train our people with the requisite technological know-how to be able to man our industry. The other challenge we have, they are able to sell, is high cost of production. You have industries that are folding up because of high production. I remember a case where there was this company producing parts. Because of cost of production, they had to fold up in this country. And they relocated in Egypt, where they were producing at relatively very low cost. The products, when they produce and bring the products to this country, they are able to sell it far lesser than the price they were selling in this country and still make profit. So which means that the cost of production is a matter that we have to look at as a country. The high tariff being paid by these industries is something that we have to look at. We are transiting into renewable energy. That is what we have to look at as a country. Let's see how we can introduce these renewable energy sources in our industries. And I'm sure when that is done, it can help to bring down cost of production and also reduce the burden on this our industry. The other issue that we have to look at is the taxes. The taxes are so much on these industries. The cost of production is very high because we tax them so much. At the end of the day, they cannot even break even. And that is very worrisome. One thing that we also have to look at is to try and see how we can look at, introduce these industries in our rural communities. I know the previous government tried to look at this 1D, 1F, but if you look at the way they tax some of these setups as industries, I think some of them were not qualified. There were some which were just could just be somebody's poultry farm. They name it as industry, and so we need to really look at if we are industrializing our districts or establishing industries in the districts. We really have to get serious and take serious measures to be able to establish this. So, Mr. Speaker, on my recommendation, I will urge us as a country to try and see how we can take advantage of the huge raw materials we have as a country and work towards introducing more industries. We have to also train more people with technological know-how to be able to let people stay and work in the industries, is to be able to find a way of reducing cost of production. And if we are able to do all these things, I believe strongly that we, as a country, can really take our industrialization more seriously and get to establish more industries to be able to accommodate the teething unemployment we have as a country. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Very much. I give the floor to Honorable Samuel Abu Jinapor.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement. The retaliatory
slapping of import duties and tariffs on their respective imports. And this is why the whole area and sector of trade in our country, both domestic and international trade, is absolutely important. Mr. Speaker, I believe that when you take a cursory look at the statement made by the Honorable MP and the contributions made, I think the question of trade facilitation and trade promotion is absolutely important. The issue to do with infrastructure, such as our ports, Mr. Speaker, how competitive are our ports, the Tema Port, the Takoradi Port, as opposed to Lomé Port, and all of that. I think it's absolutely important that we pay attention to that. Mr. Speaker, the Boankra Inland Port, which was begun by the Akufo-Addo government and which is almost complete, to what extent are we going to complete it? To what extent are we going to operationalize it? And to what extent are we going to use that as a tool or a vehicle for trade facilitation and promotion? Mr. Speaker, when you go to Debr in the Savannah region of Ghana, there is another inland port which has been envisioned by the Akufo-Addo administration, which is meant, the Tema Port, the Takoradi Port, as opposed to Lomé Port, and all of that. I think it's absolutely important that we pay attention to that. Mr. Speaker, the Boankra Inland Port, which was begun by the Akufo-Addo government and which is almost complete, to what extent are we going to complete it? To what extent are we going to operationalize it? And to what extent in the effort, Mr. Speaker, the statistic is that intra-African trade is some 7% of all the trade that happens within Africa. And when you take the European Union, intra-European Union trade is above 70%. And the benefits that will accrue as a nation, if, for example, we are able to export our salt to places like Nigeria, where Nigeria, as we speak today, imports their salt far away from Brazil. And these are the areas we need to pay particular attention to. Mr. Speaker, we also need to look at import substitution. Import substitution is absolutely important because if we are able to promote import substitution, Mr. Speaker, and produce as much of our consumables here in Ghana and consume them here in Ghana and consume made in Ghana, Mr. Speaker, that is the only way we can retain Ghanaian wealth within Ghana. And that is how we can promote the private sector of Ghana, Mr. Speaker, and that is how we will not export our hard-earned currency, hard-earned foreign currency. And if I may say, Mr. Speaker, almost everything we consume in our country is mostly imported. And so import substitution is absolutely important. And that is why the Akufo-Addo administration again brought about the one district, one factory. And I think it's particularly refreshing, Mr. Speaker, that the new government is also brought about agro-business as a component of the Ministry of Agriculture, as well as industry as a component of the Ministry of Trade. Agro-processing is key, particularly in the farming enclaves of our country, Afram Plain, northern Ghana, and other parts of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude by indicating that the statement which has been made by the Honourable Member of Parliament calls for a lot more thorough examination, because across the world, countries are now engaged in what is called protectionism, which is that countries want to protect their industries, they want to protect their private sector, they want to ensure that their countries only consume what they produce. At the same time, they want to export what they produce, the excess of what they produce, they want to export it out, and which are the two, particularly in the farming enclaves of our country, Afram Plain, northern Ghana, and other parts of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude by indicating that the statement which has been made by the Honourable Member of Parliament calls for a lot more thorough examination, because dealing with the West African region of Africa and the continental economy of Africa, to ensure that the Ghanaian economy grows, so we can have the sustainable economic growth the Honorable Member of Parliament is calling for. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, leadership. Minority Whip.
Speaker, let me first of all thank you.
That our country also begins to examine and interrogate how we in our country protectionist, where we produce here, we consume what we produce, and whatever we have in excess, we are able to export, beginning with the West African region of Africa.
We have to depart from what the first president of this country, President Nkrumah, led, and get onto it and blaze a path where growth, industrial revolution will be private, and both sides of the divide will have to come to that conclusion that it is only a private sector-led industrialization that can change the fortunes and change the narrative. Speaker, the state leading industrialization has failed. And many of the industries that were built and had to be sold out to private entities. We can have another day to make that argument, but the point is that a private sector-led industrial growth is what successive governments have a moral mandate and responsibility to continue what the previous government has started off. If it is the case that the previous government's policy of 1D, 1F, we may have our criticisms of its implementation, we may have our criticism of shortfalls, associated inherent shortfalls. If it is the case that indeed, and I took a casual look at the NDC's manifesto on industrialization, it is essentially not different from what the NPP stood for. It's essentially not different. Your manifesto says previous industrial move started by the NPP administration, you are going to continue with that. Speaker, let's come to that stage.
Honourable member, address me.
Yes, Speaker, I'm addressing you. Let's come to that stage of our development paradigm where we will say that let's jettison the shame, if there is any, and say that the IPP started 1D, 1F. It's built this number of industries. So we will have to continue with that. We continue the ones. I'm not here to tell you the number of industries we've built. I don't have the statistics. Probably the former minister can tell you. But I'm making a point that one day you will also not be in government. One day you'll be out. In fact, soon you'll be out. Soon you'll be out. Soon you'll be out.
Honourable Minority Whip, please be guided accordingly.
I stay on course. So let's continue a culture of continuity. That is what I'm speaking to. A culture of continuity is what we should look at. Speaker, Africa has the youngest population globally. And we know the incidental effect of this on industrial growth, incidental effect of population on the growth of the economy and the growth of our country. We are told Sub-Saharan Africa is projected to be the second fastest growing region globally after Asia. We are also told that now, unlike before when Nigeria was leading, seen as the biggest economy, South Africa now has the biggest economy, arguably the biggest economy. Something they are doing right in the area of manufacturing, something they are doing right in the area of mining. What is happening at Johannesburg? We have a lot of gold deposit in our country, but we are allowed politicking and name calling and tagging to drain our country. What is it about Johannesburg that we can't do? We can also do same or even better. Our policy of free zone concept, Speaker, is now not, for want of a better expression, not current. Free zone. Now, the experts are talking about economic zone. And not too far, Cote d'Ivoire here. Cote d'Ivoire is becoming more competitive. And we keep relying on our past glory. Cote d'Ivoire now is becoming more competitive in terms of investment destination than Ghana. What are they doing right? They've consistently been reviewing their policy. Their policy on free zone now, they have shifted down. That is what they call economic zone. So, Speaker, not to rehash the high point of my colleague's statement, I'm simply saying that, please, and I saw my good friend Adongo walking in, who I know will be named very soon by His Excellency the President. He will be named very soon. What we are saying, is that there should be no shame. Let's sustain the 1D1F policy, regardless. That was started by the MPP, as well as MPP administration. And this is what can change the fortunes. Elsewhere, South Africa, when government changes, you see the previous government and the succeeding government exchanging notes. After all, what is it? It's about the welfare of our people. I believe strongly that when it comes to industrialization, we are better positioned. The interrelations about raw material usage, market sources, the fact that sub-Saharan Africa, we are not trading amongst ourselves, these are basic matters that can be dealt with. But the problem is self-inflicted. The problem is self-inflicted. Let's go away or shift the paradigm and say that enough of the politicking. As long as there is something done which we consider as a productive and something we can continue on as a succeeding government, we should lay claim to it, own it, and say that it's a state project. Let's sustain it. And I think if we begin to change our attitude as politicians, as the political class, we will make a very good progress. We shouldn't be too worried about the number of factories that the MPP built. After all, they built some. We built a number of them. Improve upon them. Don't shy away from the 1D1F. Own it. See it as a state project. And then we can make the success that we are all desirous of seeing. Speaker, let me conclude by inviting you. And Speaker, I know you are very good at these consequential directives. Statements, a number of statements are made in this house. We purgate motions, we lament, and then we leave it there. Notwithstanding the fact that we haven't formed or fully constituted our committees. Speaker, I know you are very wise in such matters and you can guide us how to navigate. This is a very important statement that we can't just let go. Maybe pending the formation of the Committee on Trade. And it's also interesting to realize that His Excellency the President has decided to have the Ministry for Trade now recouched as the Ministry for Trade and Agribusiness. I commend His Excellency the President for that identity. But the effect of it must reflect practically, not just the name and the ID. And so, Speaker, I will invite you, if it finds favor with you, to make some appropriate consequential directives that I know by next week the committees will be fully constituted. They should take a look at this statement and see how we can draw on the trust of it and relate it properly for the betterment of our country. Speaker, let me commend the maker of the statement and thank you for the endurance. This number of statements you have admitted. I want to commend you highly, Speaker, for your endurance. I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Majority.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And let me also thank the maker of the statement, the former Deputy Minister of Trade, for making this important statement. Mr. Speaker, I think there is no doubt in anybody's mind in this country that Ghana wants to industrialize. We want to become a manufacturing economy. There's no doubt. We want to do same, you want to do same. Why we have always got it wrong is actually the implementation and all the kind of names we give to the kind of industrialization that we want. But the simple fact is that we want Ghana to become a manufacturing economy. We want to add value to all the resources that we are endowed with, so that we'll be able to make the shelf value of these things, longer and valuable. There's no question about that. Whether you want to do it through 1D, 1F, or whichever means you want to do it, Ghana must industrialize. That is the bottom line. We are in a continent where we don't do much business with ourselves. Intra-trade is about 3%, and we do business with the rest of the world. Even where we have created an African continental free trade, we are not taking advantage of it. We have not put in any preparation that shows to anyone that Ghana wants to improve trade with its own neighbors. These are the things, and my honorable brother was talking about continuity. I'm not quite sure whether we get to know about continuity when we go to opposition or when we are in government. Because Commander Sugar Factory was handed over to you 8 years ago. You forget about continuity. All of a sudden, we have remembered continuity. Ghana does not produce a grain, not even a grain of sugar. If you go to Uganda, Uganda has about 20 factories, over 20 factories, sugar factories. We don't produce a single sugar in this country. Previous government put a previous government put up a Commander Sugar Factory. 8 years, the previous government had issue with it, bringing in people to come and take over the sugar factory. 8 years later, the factory is not working. Ghana still does not produce a grain of sugar. So I'm glad about continuity. And we will continue things that needs to be continued. 1D, 1F, for me, did not work. And that's not the argument here. And we have 24-hour economy. Yes, you don't want to hear that. But for the next 4 years, you hear about 24-hour economy. And that, for the situation that we are in at the moment, we believe that is the way to go. We need to be able to produce more. We are not producing more in this country. So 24-hour economy will enable us to triple what we are currently producing. It will enable us to get more people to work. Where one person works, then in the future, it will be 3 people working. If you don't want this, what do you really want? We talk unemployment is in the roof at the moment. We need to get our people working. Young people haven't got jobs to do. We need to create jobs for them. And not just for the fun of it, for us to be able to produce. The former Minister for Lands was talking about import substitution. What is import substitution? You need to be able to produce the things before you can substitute them. You cannot just come and pass a law that we are banning importation of this, we are banning importation of that, without having a replacement for what you are banning. That's what we have endured in the last few years, where we have people who are promoting banning of things we don't produce in this country. So when we start producing those things, then we can actually start stopping certain things from coming into the country. But if you don't produce them and you ban them, you're actually going to increase prices. So talking about, what is it called? What was he talking about? He was talking about basically